What is up, ladies and gentlemen? Welcome back to another episode of Brand+Shred. I'm so excited. I know most of you, we've been getting some of the comments of like, Josh is subdued at the beginning of this. Like he's not his normal, like hyped up craziness, going nuts. I like to tell you to be frank, to be honest, with Sue Woodard on the show today, ladies and gentlemen, like on this podcast, I want to just be like out of my seat, screaming and yelling because she is one of those people that gets me so excited, so jazzed up. You can see her smile. Her energy exudes through the camera. I know all of you feel it. Even if you're just listening to this on a podcast, you are going to absolutely just continue to feel her energy, her passion, and her love for this industry and for all of you. She has dedicated her life to this, and we're going to be getting into that. But ladies and gentlemen, she needs no introduction. Sue Woodard, so excited to have you.
Hey, it is so good to be here. Like you make me blush with introductions like that. But you know what? It's fun to be here, and we're talking about one of my favorite topics, so it's going to be a good time.
It not only a favorite topic, but something that you're incredibly brilliant at. And that's thus why we've had some good people on the show and on the podcast in particular. But I truly mean this when I say it, Sue, is you of all people in particular, you've done such an incredible and a natural, like you've done this organically. And something I kind of want to start out, you shared this as we were getting ready for this, but back when you started in the industry, back when you started building a brand, there was no social media. Like it was just all about like building relationships, like being who you are, that authenticity. There was no social media back in the day.
No.
How did you did you just say, hey, when did you start to recognize you were kind of building a brand? Did it ever kind of hit you like, hey, I'm actually what I'm doing here, like I'm kind of building something?
You know, I mean, I have to say it wasn't really necessarily intentional. I think like
Sure.
most people out there, we're kind of into our thing and we get excited about what we're doing for a living or the business that we're working with or the customers that we're serving. And then you just kind of get into it and start doing it. And so the reason I bring that up is I don't want anybody to have the misconception that it's like, well, you just have to be around for, a couple decades, like Sue. I mean, this is actually my 31st year in the business, if you can believe that.
You would never. There's no way. There's no way, Sue. That you're only 29. You've been in since like before. That's insane.
This is
Crazy.
why I love to come shred with you. But I don't want anybody to have the feeling like you just have to be around a long time and then personal brand happens. And also at the same time, as I said, I can't say that it was intentional. It just kind of happened along the way because I do really, I love to connect with people. I love people in general, and I love to get to know people. But I think there's such a unique opportunity right now as the market is shifting, as consumer behavior is shifting, as we're getting, can I say we're post-pandemic? I don't
Oh
know.
yeah, yeah. We can
I
say it
want
for
to
sure.
so badly.
I,
um,
we're gonna push that message, and hopefully, it just helps
okay.
push us through
It
it. So I'm
sticks.
in.
Okay, all right. But as we're, consumers have changed over the last 24 months. The market
Yeah.
has changed, right? And to your very good point, the technologies have changed. And so I think it is just such a beautiful time to be talking about this because I think personal brand is absolutely never been more important than it is right now in our space.
I couldn't agree with you more right now. I think our industry has evolved. I want to say it's continuing to evolve. I don't think we're completely there yet, but again, being in it as long as you have, you've started to see this evolution, especially when it comes to social media and what we're talking about here, building a brand and in the way that it's being done. I
Yes,
think now more than ever, especially for people in leadership roles.
yes,
And I want to dive in this more because I truly believe this and I see the lives that you have personally impacted, the people. I've been with you at multiple events. You and I are going to be at an event here in just a few months
mhm,
together or a few weeks together. You continue to inspire. You continue to lead from the front by what you've done. Like you said, you've kind of just done it organically. This isn't something like you said, hey, I'm going to go build a brand. This is what I'm going to do. I'm going to impact people. I'm coming to impact your lives. That wasn't the goal you set out on, but you've done it. And that's why I think with what you just said, now more than ever, it's critical because people in leadership roles, we do have that opportunity. I want to call it a responsibility, is the other people's lives we have by doing what we do organically, or even setting out and saying, hey, you know what? I want to start doing this a little bit more intentionally now. We have the responsibility to impact people's lives,
yeah.
whether like I said, intentionally or not, we're just going to see it along the way. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, totally. And I think particularly, and people have heard me say this many times, I know you have, but it's, particularly with the type of business that we do,
Yeah.
I'm sure it's very important to connect, and have personal brand when you're selling coffee cups or what have you, but it's really important with what we're doing, whether you're a leader coming in and wanting to have that personal brand to help recruit and retain and keep good connections with your people, or, if you're originating and looking at, how do I develop really great relationships with referral partners and with consumers and other partners. The reality is that people trust people more than they trust generic brands. And I don't mean to say generic brand in like a bad way, because there's all kinds of incredible brands out there,
Right.
but people trust people, and people work with people. People don't just choose generic brand X when they're making decisions about their career, making decisions about their home, making the most major financial decision of their life. People are going to connect with people. A brand might help draw them in, but it's that personal connection that is created by having a personal brand and a connection with someone that actually wins the day.
We could literally stop right there. Like, we could call it, be done with what you just said. That was I literally have goosebumps. What you just said was so meaningful. And I want everybody listening, if you're listening or watching this, rewind it the last 2 minutes and listen to what Sue said, because it was it's so inspiration and so impactful. And I mean this. I don't even think you understand what you just said there, because so many of us, I think we look at it in a different way. But with what you just said, we have the opportunity. People like people. We trust people.
Yeah.
That's what this is all about.
Yeah.
Sometimes especially when I've talked about it in the past, like, oh, you got to build a brand to be recognized. Like, you got to build a brand so people can see you. It's so much deeper than that, Sue. And that's exactly what you were alluding to there. Like, we have the opportunity, especially in the mortgage industry or real estate industry, where we are helping people make one of the biggest financial decisions. We're helping them achieve the dream of home ownership. It is so much deeper than that.
Yeah.
It's so much deeper than like, hey, look at me, look at me, look at me, and I'm getting business out of this. We have the opportunity to impact these people's lives in ways that we may not even recognize.
And one of the things that I'll share, because I've done some speaking and teaching on personal brand, and one of the things that I think is important is that it's not something that you craft and make up, right? Like, it's exposing who you actually are and being authentic and being relatable and making those connections. I also talk a little bit about kind of using I called it the Spanx principle. Do you know what Spanx are?
Of course I know what Spanx are.
Okay,
Yeah,
so
the story of Spanx is absolutely, yeah, of course I get.
right,
I don't wear them. Let's be clear. I don't wear Spanx by any means, but I know what they are.
Okay.
Yeah.
So the Spanx principle is that, your brand is authentically you. It's not something you're making up and crafting and creating, and it's this thing you put on. It's authentically you, and it's showcasing who you are. But with Spanx on, you do not have to let it all hang out. so, so there are things that, there is a level of being, I'm very personal in my professional life. I mean, there's, not probably sometimes a lot of distance, between my personal life and my professional life. And I, share a lot. I share a lot of personal stories, and, including, failures and just, things that go wrong. But you do not have to let it all hang out. I mean, I would be cautious depending on what platforms that you're using. You don't have to show every, single shot you had last Friday night. I mean, you have to use the Spanx and keep a little tucked in.
Oh my gosh, that literally may be the best analogy I've ever heard when it comes to talking about personal brand. You know what? Not letting it all hang out. Sometimes it's not like it's gonna help you in the end. Like,
it's just you with Spanx.
Exactly. Oh my gosh, guys, like that. We're only 10 minutes into this. We're 9 minutes into this, and Sue has already dropped two giant bombs for everybody. It's like, okay, but let's dive a little bit deeper into this, because that is so many people's question. Is like, Sue, like, Josh, I'm starting a brand. I don't know, what do I show? Like, how much do I show? So let's unpack that a little bit. And I know you're a great example of this. And so many people are like, you mentioned platforms and different platforms, like, oh, I'm on LinkedIn, or I'm focused on LinkedIn, or I'm on YouTube, or I'm on Instagram. Some people are like, well, on Instagram, I can show more. Maybe I can get a little more edgy. LinkedIn, I can't do that as much. Like, when it comes to, bearing all, if you will, and not having it all tucked in the Spanx, like, what's your rule of thumb? What is Sue Woodard's? Like, how do you approach it?
Well, the way that I do approach that is I would want it to be okay for my daughter, my mom, or my grandma to see what I've posted. And so, and they know me well. They've seen every, but I wouldn't ever want to post anything that I would want my daughter, my mother, or my grandmother to look at and be like, oh my God. But you're right. And I love that you brought this up, because I think the audience that you're going after, and again, is it on LinkedIn? Are you looking for referral partners, or again, who are you trying to connect with? Or is it on, Instagram or TikTok or Facebook, or, any other platform? And there are some new platforms kind of on the rise, but I think the platform somewhat dictates kind of your tone. And so you just need to know, one of the most important things about determining, and really, getting your personal brand out there, is figure out where are the people that you're trying to connect with, and go there. And then, speak that language. If it's short form video, do short form video, if that's the thing there, but match your content to the platform, but pick your platform based on where the people are that you're trying to get in front of.
I love that. And just, I'm personally intrigued. Do you have a platform that you prefer? Is there one that you like gravitate to? Is there one that
it's super boring, but it's LinkedIn. And so, but that's because, and I'll tell you, for me, that's because that's where my audience is. I've been working B2B, with lenders and vendors for a long time. That's where they are. If I were a loan officer, if I were still originating, I would be looking at different platforms. And I actually have very intentionally limited my platforms because, between email and texting and voicemails and notifications coming in, I have enough things coming at me that I'm pretty limited with my platforms. And I really kept myself to LinkedIn and a little bit of Facebook.
Oh, guys, again, that share right there. But that's just it. So you've done it. So everybody listening to this, hearing that is kind of like, oh my gosh, well, if Sue's focused here, I don't think LinkedIn is boring. As a matter of fact, I've said this for a long time. Our team has said this. I think there's a lot of opportunity on LinkedIn, and if approached correctly, and if curating content in the right way, it can be a very powerful platform, even for loan officers out there, for anybody out there, to be honest. I think it's now here's what I want to, because if you guys don't follow Sue, you need to, because her talking about LinkedIn is a great example, because Sue, this is something, again, you've approached it intentionally, like very intentionally, but at the same time, I've seen you post, there are certain even little personal aspects. And that's why I love following you in particular. So many people think it's like business all the time. Like, even like you said, it's business, like an opportunity to build business relationships, but you've been personal on LinkedIn. There is opportunities on LinkedIn that you can share a little bit of personal.
Yes. And I would encourage people to do that, because much like we were talking about how people trust people more than they connect with people more than they connect to a brand, people also connect to stories more than they do just facts and, marketing lingo. And so people connect to your stories, and we're in the business of stories. The mortgage industry is full of every single transaction that everybody listening to this, you have multiple stories just at your fingertips with the clients that you're serving, the referral partners that you're working with. And again, if you're listening as a leader, you think about, again, the people that you're working with. Our business abounds with stories, cool stories, and people just connect with stories more than they do fact or stats, or they're important, but they're not everything. And it's just how people are wired. People are attracted to people's faces. Just there is something about it's very interesting. I was working with a client the other day. I was looking through all their social media, and it was like really obvious that the posts that they did that had people's faces where you could see eyeballs, or if there's anything remotely kind of fun, and they're not just, and it's all tied to their brand, but those were off the charts, way more responded to, commented on, liked, shared than the ones that were just a little bit more static. Or and again, there's a place for both. That's part of the magic, is you mix those things up. But I think it's being aware of where can you infuse those things but not lose your message of what you're there to do.
Oh man, I'm like, I'm myself, I'm soaking all this in. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is just like incredible information here. Now, you mentioned something that again, you're like, it's almost like we have this scripted and we don't. This is why this is so brilliant. You mentioned leaders when it comes to like them posting. A lot of something you and I have encountered, especially in the mortgage. I mean, we're talking mortgage, but we're talking for everybody here. But in the mortgage space in particular, sometimes we see leaders who are almost timid to start to, whether they want to accept it. Like you said, some people just do it naturally and it just comes natural, and that's fantastic. But there's a lot of leaders who even see it as like, well, what Sue and Josh are doing, or what this person is doing, they're doing it from, a self-centered play. They're doing it just to say, look at me, look at me, look at me. And I disagree. And I think you would as well. We don't do this. This isn't for the like, hey, come look at Josh, come look at Sue, look at me. This is why I'm amazing. We do it because we truly are passionate about the industry. And like you said, we want to help others. Hopefully, maybe somebody listening to this today, they listen to your words and they're like, you know what? I've been thinking about this. I have the opportunity personally to impact people's lives in my community or around me. What Sue said today, she impacted me. So I'm going to go take this out. So when it comes to leaders thinking about this in a way that's just like, no, I don't want to do this because I don't want to be self-aggrandizing. I don't want to be, I don't want to be like, I don't want to be arrogant or cocky. What are you like? What would you say to those people, whether an executive role or in a leadership
Yeah.
role, who think about it in that way?
I'm so glad that you brought that up because I do think part of it is actually it's much more about I think it's more important to be relatable than it is necessarily inspirational. And that's what actually it's one of the interesting trends out there is that it's not about, trying to be perfect and trying to, drop these grand, perfectly phrased, whatever. It's about being relatable. And I can think of I remember Ron Ron Millard, the CEO of Envoy. I remember it was probably, I don't know, sometime during 2020, and he had this picture or video that he put on LinkedIn, of like his son was giving him a haircut. And it was just like, it was so real and so human. And it was just fantastic because here it was somebody just being like, here we all are getting our weird haircuts at home. And, it just made him so personal and so
Yeah.
relatable. And I see that, across social media. And those are the ones, probably any of you, if you're scrolling through like everybody does, you're scrolling through your social media or what have you. And social media, of course, is just one place that your personal brand has the ability to show up pretty easily and cheaply. But if you're scrolling through, I bet you're going to find those are the ones that you kind of stop on and go, oh, interesting. Eddie Perez is another one who I think just does a great job of he tells stories and he's very
Yeah.
personal with what he talks about. I mean, there's so many examples that I could give. But it's the people that are telling stories. They're relatable. You're attracted suddenly to that brand and that company. So again, if you're a leader and you're looking to, recruit in and retain the best, those are the ones that are going to get more attention than, kind of we offer the best package of, da da da. Of course you do. Everybody's
Right.
got a good package, good products, good rates, good support. I mean, that's kind of table stakes to have that. But let people see you, the real genuine you. And again, it is more about being relatable than being perfect.
Oh man, I want to make sure we quote that. Everybody listening, it's more about being relatable than purple. I 100% agree with that. That's what people I know. Most career moves I've made in my behalf, or like throughout my life, have been that. People, and especially in the sales world, always talk about facts tell, stories sell. But we are all at the end of the day, as we're building this brand, like it's the stories, it's who we authentically, genuine. I know people are like, oh, you guys use those words too much, but that's like what it really is being the authentic us, especially because as we are putting ourselves out there, Sue, and you and I
Yeah.
have both seen this and attest to it, is people always say fake it till you make it, but you can't fake it when it comes to people. Like, people see through it very, very quickly. They see
Yeah.
the real you. And the sooner you can recognize that people are okay with you, the real you, who
Yes.
you really
Yes.
are, that's when
Yes.
it starts to not only click for you, but for others around you.
I
And then
agree.
it becomes like it's a more comfortable place. Because
It's
if you're trying to put on this facade, if you're trying to put on this act,
yeah.
and again, I've even had people like, Josh, I'm trying to be more like you. And I'm like, don't be like me. Like, you can't be me. I'm over the top sometimes. Like, if you try to be me, people are gonna be like, oh,
Yes.
that's awkward. You got to
Yes.
be you, Sue.
Yes, yes. And I'm so glad that you said that because again, it's about authenticity. And I think sometimes people again feel like, oh my gosh, I have to say this perfectly. It's why I see a lot of people not doing enough video marketing, right? Is because they feel like, oh, I've got to be perfect before I do this thing. I mean, the folks at BombBomb are such a great example. They're incredible. They just do their thing. They send that thing out, and it's not perfect, but it's authentic and it's real, and that's what people are attracted to and into. And particularly now, we talked a little bit about kind of the market is shifting, and consumers are in a place right now, just broadly across the entire spectrum, not just in financial services and mortgage. Um, People are tired.
Sure,
People
yeah.
are kind of just weary. They're feeling uncertain, and having relatability, telling a story and having some fun and being okay to be imperfect, just like every single person that you're talking to, right? Like every
Yeah.
single person you're talking to. I mean, honestly, I feel like, going back for a second to the leadership, a leader showing I'm not perfect, but I'm going to do this video and I'm going to share the story and I'm going to tell this great, example of something cool that just happened. I mean, that's the kind of thing that really attracts people because people go, man, he or she is just like me. So it's not crafting it, it's not faking it, it's just being authentic and letting it show imperfect.
Well, it's like you said there, like she's real. Like when they see you make a mistake, they're like, "Oh my gosh, Sue made a mistake. I can
All
make
the
a
time.
mistake." It almost gives them permission. It's like, "Oh my gosh, like
I've
I
in this podcast, I probably said 15 times, and like it's sometimes it's why I don't go back and watch things again. Like I watch myself speak, and I'm like, oh my gosh, you said 40 times, and you're like whatever. But it's just about it's connecting, and it is a part of the legacy that you leave behind. Again, this
Mm,
industry is doing big things, meaningful things. We're changing people's lives. We're building neighborhoods. We're building communities. We're like making such good things happen, changing people's lives. Tell these stories, be authentically you, and then use that to connect with the people that you want to be serving.
oh my gosh, this is absolutely incredible. And as we start to wrap things up here, guys, go back and listen to that last minute of what Sue's talking about, because big things are happening. As we kind of going back to almost what we started with, Sue, as we wrap things up here, is now is an amazing time to do it. Like you said, we're doing so many big things in our industry now more than ever. You have the opportunity. Every single one of you listening today has an opportunity to change people's lives, to impact people's
Yeah.
lives, to build relationships in ways that you've never done so. And again, you can do that by being authentically you, by being
Yeah.
your authentic self, like you said, Sue. So, take what Sue has said today, like go out, start implementing it. If you need help, like reach out. Like Sue and I, like, we are busy people, but if people really reach out to us, I don't think there's ever been a time, and I know Sue, who she is, even she mentioned she's busy, she's got things going on. If you reach out authentically and like, Sue, she'd be willing to take a second and be like, hey, you know what?
Totally.
I can help
Yes.
you here. But that's who you are. That's who I am. So Sue, for everybody listening today, kind of like I said, as we wrap this up, as we start to really push people, if you're ready to take this step, if people are ready to go down this road of building a brand, of start creating content, where do they start? Where would you say, hey, you know what? If you are getting into this, if 2022 is your year to really start pushing into it, where do people really start?
I would tell them to pick their platform,
Hmm.
right? Pick the platform based on where your people are that you're trying to connect with. Um, Gather some stories, right? I would actually probably block time. If this doesn't come naturally to you, block
Yeah.
time on your calendar a couple times a week to say, this is the time I'm going to go ahead and get those posts out there. Middle of the day, middle of the week are kind of those hot spots. Put it on your calendar so that you actually don't come up with excuses not to do it. And I would most encourage people, especially if you do video, which I highly encourage, record that video, tell that story, and ship it. Don't do it 85 times. Just get started, and you'll probably be really surprised at the reaction that you get and how your brand will start to develop very organically, easily, because you're just authentically showing who you are.
Oh my gosh. There you go. And on that. And just to point out, we're not going to edit any of this. This is how perfect this was. There was no 2 or 3 takes on this, ladies and gentlemen. That was one take. There's no editing on this. That was absolutely amazing. But that's just it. Just be you, be authentically you. And you're going to see very, very quickly that people connect with you. You may find your tribe, those people who really, and that's okay. You're not trying to, so many times when people start building a brand, they're like, I need 1 million followers. I need 100,000 followers. You don't. You just need the people who really connect, like who want to build that relationship, who want to build that trust and that love and that respect. So, Sue, you are absolutely brilliant. I am so grateful to have you on this. And we're going to end the show. I haven't told her about this. I know she probably hasn't watched the show, so it's a surprise. See, you can see in her face, she has no idea it's about to happen. As we always do, we end with our interview deck from Poddex. This is not sponsored by Poddex. We just really enjoy them because it's a fun way to end the show. So we're going to ask Sue 3 random questions from the pod. You see, she had no idea. That's why I love it. That's why I love dropping this at the very end. 3 random questions to end the show, and just to get to know Sue Woodard a little bit more personally. So here we go. 3 random questions from our Poddex. Here we go. Question number 1. Oh my gosh. We should have scripted this. This is amazing. Do you put up a boundary in any area of your life to keep people out?
Do I put up a boundary in any area of my life to keep people out? Well, yeah, I guess in
Sure.
some ways, but very little. Like I said, I mean, and I won't expand too much, but I will say that my personal and professional have huge, huge, huge overlaps. But I do think that because part of being able to give all we give is that sometimes I've got to have boundaries on my time, and
Yeah.
sometimes you just have to shut off, and there's no more of me to go around that day
I,
for that week. And you probably have exactly the same thing, but everybody else should have that too. I think you
oh,
got
I,
to have some boundaries on your time.
I'm so glad you say that, because that's giving people permission. Because most of you listening, like I said, respectively, if you reach out to Sue, like, we're busy people. With what we do with our family lives, our personal lives, lives, our business lives, we're busy. You have to set boundaries. There needs to be some type of boundary in your life. If it's just like, no, I'm going to make time for the world, like you will
Yes.
overwhelm yourself and you will burn yourself out. Like I talk a lot about the hustle, and like, yes, I love the hustle and I love the grind and working as much as I do. It's awesome, but you do need to have boundaries in your life. If you don't, you're going to like, things will just get too chaotic. So I love it. That was a perfect answer. See, I love that. See, that's why, so you had no idea that was coming. Okay. Question number 2. Oh, this is a fun one. When you're feeling sick, what makes you feel better?
Taking a bath.
Bath, really? That's the
Yeah,
one
no,
thing.
I'm
It's
like
like,
a huge, like, it just, oh my God, knock me out, get me my jacuzzi tub, glass of
you
wine, book. I got a cat sitting next to me. I mean, a big bubble bath is like, that's my go-to when I don't feel well.
really? See, I'm like, I hate baths, like literally hate baths. I don't know what it is. I don't know. Like my wife is all into homeopathics and she's like, well, if you take this bath remedy, it
I
will
know.
make you feel better and pull out
Oh, it's
toxins. But I
great.
hate it. Like I hate
Yeah.
sitting in a bath. I don't know what it like. Hot tub. We got a hot tub, like, and I'm cool with that. But like, I don't know what it's about a bath. But
Yeah.
like,
No,
if
I
I'm,
have
if
to
I'm, see, I say a lot of people would probably say bath. Mine, like, I just want to be in my bed. Like, I just like want to chill in my bed, leave me alone. Like, let me move my hood on and let me get over this thing. Let me sweat it out real quick. That's what I want. So that's when I feel sick. Okay. Last question here. Random question number 3. Oh, this is fun. Would you rather have a cool boss and learn nothing, or a strict boss who you learn from?
learn from.
Yeah. Okay,
100%.
let's take this deeper. Do you have anything? I mean, in your past, I know we're trying to reach like totally like random now, but have you had a boss that you've learned from? You're like, wow, that was something like a good lesson I got.
100%. I have, well, and I can honestly say I have learned from my cool bosses and my not cool bosses. You just
Ah,
learn very different lessons from them. And so, but I am just a huge believer of learning, especially from those who are in other positions than me, somebody who's in a boss position to me. I've reported to many CEOs, and I learn a lot from them by what they do, by what they don't do. Those are hard jobs, really hard jobs. And so I learned by observation. And as I said, I've had cool ones and not cool ones, and I've learned from both for sure.
that's actually amazing because lessons you've probably learned from both, some good and bad lessons. So
Mhm.
you definitely learn from both sides of it. I would agree. There's some I would much rather learn. I'm like a sponge. I love to learn. I love to like experience things that others have, learn from their lessons, their mistakes, and along the way. So I absolutely love that. I think that's great. So those are our 3 random questions. Like I said, we love doing that. It kind of throws people, puts them into their natural state, like we've been talking about, their
I
authentic
love it.
way. So it was absolutely brilliant. Sue, you've been absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for everything you've
Thank you.
shared. Thank you for everything that you do, for the leader, for the inspiration, for the love that you continually share. So
Thank
I
you.
can't wait to see you in a few weeks. Hang out in person. It's going to be a ton
Sounds
of
good.
fun. And
Love it.
again, thank you for the inspiration that you are. Everybody listening, I guarantee you've got something on this podcast. Go back and listen to it. If you know somebody who might need it, tag them in this. Say, hey, go check this out. We appreciate your guys' support. So, and always, you can guys, every single week, we have another great leader like Sue sharing how you can build your brand. If 2022 is the year for you, go out and make it happen, just like Sue has. Sue, you're amazing. Thanks so much for being here.
All right. See you.
All right, guys, as always, we appreciate you. We love you. Now it's time for all of you guys to go shred, go show up, hustle, repeat every day. See ya. Hey, everybody. Thank you so much again for joining us on another episode of Brand+Shred. I hope you got as much value out of this episode as I did. And if you did, make sure you hit that subscribe button below so you don't miss a single weekly episode with the incredible guests that we're bringing you to help you build your personal brand. Click that subscribe button, share, and even leave a comment. We appreciate you. We look forward to seeing you next week on another episode of Brand+Shred.